Imagine opening a brand new, top-of-the-line laptop, only to find no user manual and no setup guide, just a blank, blinking screen. That is exactly what happens the day you are born. You are handed a biological supercomputer with over 100 billion neurons, and you're left to fumble around in the dark. From the minute we start school, we are told to memorize dates, formulas, and vocabulary, but we are almost never taught how the brain prefers to store them. Instead, we spend decades taking notes the same way, endless linear lists and rigid bullet points. Look at this division between the two cerebral hemispheres. While these sides are constantly communicating, our traditional notes cater almost exclusively to the analytical centers. We feed the brain words and sequential logic, while the spatial and creative centers, the parts that handle rhythm, color, and imagination, are left dormant. Standard notes offer zero spatial dimension or imagery. Without these cues, the visual and creative centers of the brain have nothing to engage with. Reading long, monochromatic lists physically makes you yawn because the visual cortex is bored by the monotony. Taking notes in rigid, straight lines is the cognitive equivalent of trying to run a marathon by hopping on one leg. It is an inefficient process that leaves a high percentage of your brain's processing power untapped. Tony Buzan's mind map framework attempts to solve this by aligning external note-taking with internal biology. He designed it to function as a toolkit that mirrors the brain's physical architecture. By examining the biology, mechanics, and psychology of mapping, we can see how bypassing linear restrictions changes the way we recall and connect information. This approach moves beyond simple organization. It allows you to utilize the dormant neural pathways that traditional education ignores. If you look at a single neuron under a microscope, you won't see a straight line or a neat row of text. You see a central nucleus with intricate dendrites shooting out in every direction, looking like the root system of an ancient tree. Our biological hardware is built on branches. This branching structure allows for a phenomenon called synergy. When you combine a logical keyword with a colorful image, the two processing styles react like chemical elements, forming a stable compound. Combining these elements triggers a reaction between the analytical and creative hemispheres. This simultaneous processing creates a connection that is far more durable than a word sitting alone on a line. By engaging the visual and logical cortex at once, you create a memory structure that is physically easier for the brain to navigate and retain. Constructing a mind map begins with turning your paper sideways. Landscape mode matches our natural peripheral vision. Evolutionarily, we are built to scan the horizon, and a wide page signals to the brain that there is open space to expand. You anchor the process in the dead center of the page with an image. This central anchor acts as a gravitational pull for your thoughts, forcing the visual cortex to participate from the very first second. From there, draw thick, radiating branches using only organic curves. Straight lines are artificial. When the eye tracks a rigid line, it moves predictably, which can put the brain into a passive state. Curves force the eye to make constant micro-adjustments, keeping the visual cortex active. The content follows a strict rule, one key word per branch. While we are taught to write full sentences, the mechanics of grammar can actually stop the brainstorming process. A sentence ends with a period, and that period is a full stop. It creates a closed loop, where the brain decides the thought is finished and checks out. A single, isolated key word creates an open loop. Writing the word budget on a branch triggers a cascade of associations, like flights, hotels, or restaurants. Each of those becomes a new branch, allowing the imagination to grow outward. Stripping away the grammar leaves the concept breathing. It invites the brain to do what it evolved to do, link pieces of information together to build a larger context. Most people quit mind mapping when their first attempt looks like a messy spiderweb. We expect instant mastery, and when the map looks chaotic, we assume the tool is flawed or that we simply aren't visual people. Buzan addresses this through a framework called TFCAS: trial, event, feedback, check, adjust, success. It's the same way a toddler learns to walk. They stand up, fall down, and process the feedback to calculate the next adjustment. A messy map is not a failure. It is neutral data. It provides the feedback your brain needs to check the spacing and adjust the keywords. Without that initial mess, you can't arrive at a refined result. Mistakes are the mandatory data required to calculate a discovery. The messiness isn't a sign of low intelligence, it is the literal mechanism of learning. In a professional environment, this provides a strategic overview. A linear 80-slide deck fragments your information, but a single-page mind map offers a 360-degree view. You can trace how a delay in one department ripples across the entire project, allowing you to find alternate routes that are invisible in a list. Now, this isn't a new productivity hack. We can see this branching architecture in the notebooks of history's most effective polymaths, who used these techniques long before they had a formal name. Leonardo da Vinci's journals show a total rejection of straight lines. When studying anatomy, he placed the heart at the center, and his notes branched outward alongside the blood vessels. He synergized art and science on the page to match the subject's complexity. Charles Darwin used the same method to visualize the theory of evolution. His I Think sketch is a literal branching tree of life, allowing him to map how species diverge and connect in a way a sequentialist never could. These thinkers didn't force their minds to conform to artificial straight lines. They let their thoughts branch out exactly as their neurons do. The next time you have a project to plan, grab a blank horizon of paper, turn it sideways, and finally let your brain think the way it was built to.